What I have right here is a piece of desert history. It's today's Desert Sun. It's the last Sunday edition of our local newspaper that will be printed here in Palm Springs. In a cost-saving move, Gannett, which owns the Desert Sun, has decided to close the printing facility here. And starting tomorrow, the Desert Sun will be printed in Phoenix, Arizona. The Desert Sun granted NBC Palm Springs exclusive access to the final paper rolled off the press. Our Dan Adams shows us why this happened and what's next.
Long before television showed us the news,
the president died.
The president died.
Even well before families gathered around the radio to hear the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, we may be approaching a fateful hour.
Get your morning paper.
Americans got their news on the streets, from the newspaper. And in 1927, in the village of Palm Springs, a local newspaper was born, an offshoot of the Banning Record.
Palm Springs was starting to be a really active place, and a lot of people were coming here, and there was a need to know what was going on.
In that first edition, the Desert Sun reported on a new hotel about to be built, the El Mirador, and how Palm Springs was about to get a new modern phone service. The Sun quickly became the voice of the desert, and as the valley grew, so did the paper, guided by a string of prominent owners.
A lot of powerful men own this paper, and they used the paper as part of their influence in the community.
So successful, in 1947, the Desert Sun opened its own new offices downtown and got its first printing press. Then moved to the Sun Center. But executive editor Julie McAdam says the real pinnacle came in 1989. That's when the Desert Sun moved to a huge new state-of-the-art newsroom and printing facility across from Palm Springs Airport.
I think there was some really golden years in the late 80s and early 90s.
Golden then, but at that time, no one saw the disaster looming for traditional news media, something called the Internet.
It's incredible how quickly and how thoroughly the internet has transformed, both the business of delivering news, but the business of advertising.
In 10 short years, newspaper revenues nationwide plummeted 62%. The Desert Sun, which in 1990 had a circulation of 90,000, now has fewer than 20,000. Its staff of 300 now down to 100. Large sections of the building closed down, but now even that isn't enough. And longtime sports writer Larry Bohannon never thought he would utter these words.
Our presses will be shutting down this weekend, and that's kind of a shame, because one of the perks of being in the newspaper business is every once in a while going back and taking a look at the presses and seeing the magic that comes from taking these blank rolls of paper, and in a couple of minutes, boom, there's a brand new newspaper there.
But not anymore. Sunday, they ran the presses for the last time. The final rolls of newsprint and barrels of ink. The last papers coming off the conveyors and packaged and rushed to the loading dock to arrive on your front porch in the morning. Now that will all be done in Phoenix. The paper's trucked to Palm Springs. And with that, also the final run for 24 press room employees.
I've been here 35 years, sir. 35 years now. Making sure we have ink in the press.
Senior press operator Wendell Saxon Sr. started when the Sun was in the Sun Center.
I was here when the first paper was printed off of the press, and I'll be here for the last one. And I hope I just don't get teary-eyed.
Tough choices in tough times. Gannett, the Sun's parent company, hopes to save up to $125 million this year by furloughs and consolidation.
Kind of a trend in the newspaper business to consolidate. People might think that we're not going to have a print paper anymore. That's not true. We're just printing it in a different place.
While the actual paper is now going to be printed in Arizona, the editorial content will not change. This is the newsroom. It's kind of empty right now because of COVID, but every reporter who works here now will still be here next week. Now that they have yelled, "Stop the presses," for the last time, these mechanical giants will be dismantled and sold, probably to a newspaper in Asia. As for this once stellar building, it is also for sale. Is there a time when the Desert Sun ceases printing altogether, perhaps going all digital, which has seen some growth? Well, that is yet to be seen. But at a critical junction for traditional, reliable, and credible journalism, the Desert Sun is doing what it can to remain viable and a much-needed watchdog in the Coachella Valley.
I hope people have seen in 2020 the value that we provide, and I'm grateful for all the readers who have written to, say they appreciate what we've been doing.
I'm Dan Adams, NBC Palm Springs.